Our final keynote for the day is by Charlotte Patrick, who's going to shed light on how IoT and Edge are changing the telco data landscape.
Charlotte is an independent industry analyst covering the use of analytics, artificial intelligence, and automation by telecommunication companies. She brings 13 years of experience as an analyst at Gartner, 3 years as an independent analyst, and 10 years of practical experience in AT&T, COLT, and Telefonica O2, with a mix of strategic, marketing, and financial skills, which is overwhelming.
Let's hand it over to Charlotte to take us away.
Hi there. Thank you very much for joining me today. My name is Charlotte Patrick. I'm an analyst and I cover analytics, AI and automation for telcos. I'm really aware that I've got a mixed audience here today. Not everybody has a focus on telco, but I'm hoping that the strategy that I have used to look at this topic today will be of interest to everybody. And in particular, I'm looking at what telcos could do with their data now that there is more IoT and edge opportunities coming online. And I have been covering telco data products, that is what they could do with data, and other analytics, AI and automation, which I often refer to as A3 in my presentation. You'll see that sometimes. And I've been doing it for the last 10 years, and it's a really difficult journey for even the best of them, because it's such a complex ecosystem. There are so many data products, so many different regulations, so many different use cases, and it's even when you start to build them, they can be quite difficult to build, and you can end up with a real mix of data products which do not have some of the large revenues that telcos are used to generating from, say, their consumer business. So this is a tricky business. And I'm hoping that the work that I've done will help telcos and other people to think about how they might approach other data opportunities going forward, because there are a variety of things that could be done. So I'm just going to show you my first slide there and talk through what I'm showing here. So the diagram shows the original area that telcos have been working in when you think about data and analytics for telcos. That's the top one. And it says BSS CRM, and it's really about customer aggregated and anonymized customer data. With other analytics, AI and automation added in, and perhaps some location to provide products for their customers. But there are then new areas. So moving to the right on the diagram, there is data from the network and the OSS, and this is much more, although not completely associated with IoT and Edge, but more associated with that. And the data can be used for control and management, for the automating of networks, and a variety of things that I want to talk through today. Then on the left-hand side, you've also got the opportunity for telcos to add in more algorithms or other kind of intelligence and other products such as image recognition, natural language processing, text analytics. There's a variety of things that could be added on top of this. And then also a question mark, if you are going to offer these sorts of products and it's going to be as a service of some sort, what about adding in other data products, whether that be infrastructure or management products, governance, privacy, security, all sorts of different things? Question mark, are they an opportunity as an add-on to the product that you are creating? Yeah, it's a complex scenario, because as shown by the kind of Venn diagram look, they can actually be mixed together. It slightly depends what one wants, and in order to do this, think about it correctly and to create some good strategies, I think you need to look at it holistically. So I have a spreadsheet. It has about 300 use cases, and each of these use cases is split by vertical and by the sorts of activities. So I've tried to think through each vertical and think about kind of the major things that could be done. And when you look at each one of these use cases on the spreadsheet, you begin to see that they fall into buckets of vertical requirements. There are just certain things that you need in one vertical that you also need in another. And I've started to kind of group them together, and the basic material I'd like to show you today is to talk through those groupings. And what the group is supposed to do is allow somebody to think about, who's trying to think through a full strategy, right? Okay, these are the sorts of things if you're going to look for things that you could do with data or with A3 or with data management products, say, well, you know, these are how you should mentally think about them, because each of these kind of groups have similar requirements. And so I hope that by doing this is kind of just a shorthand way of thinking about them. Then, of course, once you've thought about the different vertical requirement groups, suddenly there is this complexity of, you know, what products and services could be offered to each of these groups of users. And the answer is, well, it's not exactly a one-to-one relationship. So I'd like to show you a little bit about my thinking there as well, to try and kind of help your strategic thinking, I guess. So getting going, I would like to show you, these are my user requirement categories. There's 9 of them. I am going to talk through, although it's never good presentation style to talk through each one individually because it's kind of boring. Actually, there's so much detail here. When I was looking at them, I just went, I've really got to speak about each of them individually, and I wanted to show you a use case for each of them to give you a mental picture of the sorts of things that are going on in each of the use cases. So starting off with the monitoring and control. So this is a set of data services around the management of, it could be processes, it could be machinery, it could be applications. Those are typically your 3 buckets. It includes the collection and usage of data for things like performance management, fault management, automation, those kinds of things. There are also newer concepts such as the collaboration between machines or collaborative learning between multiple machines. We see a little bit, there's more coming down the line, and they have all sorts of data opportunities. And then there are subcategories inside of this monitoring and control bucket. One of them is the management of remote locations, which for telcos has an additional set of capabilities on top of it, and also the management of mission critical capabilities, which require more things around connection and the ability to keep those connections up, and the sorts of data that comes off. The mission critical can be, you know, a very specific subset of requirements. So to give you an example of the sorts of things that the telcos are doing, this is an example. Oh, and by the way, I've put URLs at the bottom of each so that you can go and look at more detail of the case studies, because I'm going to whiz through them pretty quick. Here we're looking at a case from a remote monitoring solution case from AT&T, and it includes the installation of several thousand energy conservation measures within a remote location or set of remote locations. They modify and manage the discharge of air set points, the installation of variable frequency drives, and the repairing and enabling of economizers and dampers in an environment. Utility meter data was integrated into the tool, enabling the teams to demonstrate energy saving successes. And in addition, the data was leveraged to develop machine learning capabilities on the largest sites. The ML made recommendation on key attributes, and they were provided every 15 minutes, enabled the facility to be optimized based on changing building loads and weather conditions. And this also allowed damaged and malfunctioning sensors and other faults to be identified, and provided detailed diagnostic information on alarms. So you're getting there a use case there around remote control and remote monitoring. In particular, it could be a variety of different scenarios, but that's my first use case for you. Moving back to look at the diagram and really talking about next, sensors and images. So this is another monitoring and control use case essentially, but this time involving the collection of data from a range of IoT sensors, including air pressure, light, vibration, motion and flow sensors, those sorts of things. It also includes devices collecting things like image data and analysing them, so image recognition, facial recognition, and devices used for tracking, so RFID telematics are also included here, because although they're quite different and have different verticals, they have the same sorts of requirements for data products. And other devices capturing different types of data, say biometrics for humans. I've actually categorized them in other areas of this diagram here because they fit better with the usages. So you'll see some sensors coming up again. And the major subcategories here include future use cases, such as whether we've got sensors that have a high degree of accuracy. So for telcos, with the arrival of 5G Advanced and 6G, we are likely to see sensors that can do different things. So they're kind of subcategories, but for the most part here, we're talking about IoT data from sensors. And to give you an example, we have here a drone solution providing continuous monitoring that can track growth of plants in using computer vision, wireless networking, and sort of specialist analytics solutions, and they capture plant data down to the pixel level. The drones pass by these trays of plants and they aim a high resolution camera at the leaves in search of anything out of the ordinary. So we're talking about yellow spots or uneven growth areas, abnormal leaf sizes, stem lengths, and other issues. This is a Nokia and Bell Labs use case, and they note that this type of solution could also apply to other large indoor facilities like factories, warehouses, and distribution centres, requiring inspection, inventory control, and process optimization needs. So here, yeah, again, this is about sensors and imaging data and bringing that data back to a central point. Moving on a little and going to number 3, we're moving away from monitoring, control and images and so forth, and looking at moving objects. So here I have noticed that almost every moving object requires a more or less similar set of data services. So the category is broken down into specific subcategories. So we've got vehicles on the move. This is more traditional telemetry to track and monitoring them, mostly about commercial vehicles. We've got autonomous vehicles requiring management, remote operations and coordination, so V2V and V2X. And it could be private, passenger, commercial vehicles, different types of vehicles. We've also got other things that move, like drones and robotics, that require management, remote operations and coordination. They also require communications between them, or can also have quite specialist requirements, such as the control of robots, which perform very precise movements. So slight difference in robots and robots versus other types of moving objects, but some similarities. And then the tracking of other objects. So if we've got RFID, or we've got other tracking solutions, monitoring things that are just moving. So it could be stuff moving in a retail or warehouse setting, or it could be cargo on the move. And all of these sorts of moving objects have similar kinds of data requirements. And here I've got an example from a test and assurance company, Spirent here, and they are looking at specific data products for drones. So the Global Navigation Satellite System provides positioning, navigation and timing services for drones, and it's used to ensure safe flight. However, the service is not 100% accurate, and so the Spirent product provides a forecast for a flight path to provide best case, worst case and 90th centile predictions across the path. They also provide a forecast service in spaces where there's buildings or obstructions which might interfere with the GNSS. And it basically provides second by second prediction to enable flights to use GNSS safely to meet all of their navigation needs. So here we're talking about obviously very specific data services for drones, but these sorts of things occur across the moving objects category. There's all sorts of opportunity for data services. Moving back to my diagram and looking at number 4, autonomous networks. So this is more of a telco-centric kind of use case, I guess. And here I'm talking about the TM Forum definition of telcos as a service or as a platform, creating autonomous networks for vertical industries, which are going to need quite complex networking. And areas of uses: smart city, manufacturing, autonomous vehicles and utilities. Use cases provide things like capabilities such as zero wait, zero touch, zero trouble solutions. So here it's talking about the creation of autonomy and in various different parts of the network, and they all require different data services from the telco. And to give you an example, so here the vendor here is Vantic, and it's working with Telco SoftBank to build capabilities in a city in Japan. They integrated 19 different technologies, including IoT sensors, so cameras and crowd detectors, smart signage detecting gender, age and location, and security systems as well, to enable a test ground for experimentation around various city functions. And they're really wide ranging. So food delivery, security monitoring, personalized billboards, automated cleaning and public transportation. And this required real-time data integration to allow 7 different algorithms, 8 different cameras and sensors, and 4 different web services to communicate. And there was also ingestion analysis of incoming streaming data for interactive restaurant booking, touchscreen maps, and personalized advertising billboards. So a real mix of capabilities. It also included edge compute, so where there were privacy implications, non-important data was sent over the network, but PII was not sent to centralized servers. So there was a need for other data services there. So as you can see, when we think about networks, there's just a lot of coordination capabilities for the networks, and also assurance as well, the ability to know what's happening and to find faults. So quite a busy area for a telco, this in future when it comes to data services. Going on to number 5 now, so people analytics. This category has been the most active for the telcos in the last 12 years or so. Most of the use cases use telco data around the customer from the billing systems, augmented with location data, and it provides views of customer segmentation, demography, and movement within a geographic space as well. So there's a use of data mostly from mobiles, although not specifically only from mobiles. And the need for location data, interesting, was used in 54% of all use cases across all of these categories. And I say that because it's interesting to me what an important piece of the puzzle around data products location is. And it's most mature in the people analytics category. I have an example here for you from vendor Carto. They developed a location-based dashboard to help those companies involved in electric vehicle charge stations to plan and monitor the most optimal location for the charge stations. So this site planning and monitoring tool allows staff to first of all monitor site performance across their network, to compare site performance and identify new potentially high performing sites, to look at competitor sites, so users can drop a pin anywhere in the map, and then they're presented with predictions on the performance of potential charging points in that location. So this is using telco data about the types of customers and those which might have electric vehicles, and it gives you a potential insight into the market and also in a particular area, the competitors in that area and potential revenue generating opportunities. And you can also use it to predict the success of future sites. So quite an interesting set of use cases that telcos are quite involved in, because you can do some interesting stuff with it. Then moving backwards and just looking at, so I have 4 categories left, and the next one, number 6, thing analytics. So most of the use cases in this diagram that are around IoT and data products are kind of 1, 2, and 3, and 4 potentially. But number 6 is kind of a set of small and rather eclectic mix cases that use a mix of use cases that are outside any of those bigger categories. Examples include the addition of data about IoT usage and behaviour into trading decisions in the financial sector, or the monitoring of vehicles involved in road accidents for decision making by insurance companies. So as you can see, it's just this really broad category of things that don't fit anywhere else, but are about monitoring insight about things and then doing something with it. For telcos, it's a sort of minor. Some of them are useful, and some of them possibly are not. But I do think that one needs to bundle all of them together in one place so that they can be found when you're kind of doing your strategy on all of this. like to move on now and just go to human focused things, number 7. So this is the least mature of the 9 categories and contains a group of capabilities which could be loosely defined about being focused on the human. It includes all device and applications to augment the human, whether mentally or physically. So lots of future focused stuff there. Also the area of virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed and extended reality. Plus any sensors which are used by humans. So there are a range of biosensors here and also medical monitoring. It's not particularly clear to me how telco products and data could be used here. Many of the use cases require ultra reliable low latency connections as a starting point, and perhaps telco data services could be added on top. But the feasibility and size of the market is a little bit hard here for me. So when you see one of my further slides later on about the opportunities for telcos, I would say perhaps as 6G starts to arrive in the 2030 timeframe, it might become clearer what's available here. But for me, it's a way of categorizing things that have a similar human focus and just say, look, kind of these are quite difficult and need to be thought about separately. Number 8 is complex data chains. This use case relates to the observation that telcos may be one of the only parties that have end-to-end visibility of a stream of data as it traverses organizations or international boundaries. This data might also have requirements such as being ultra high volume or velocity as we go into kind of the 6G, 5G, advanced 6G area, which might require additional specific capabilities. It's hard to be specific about exactly which use cases fall into this category, but some likely candidates have been identified to provide kind of a starting point when thinking about this. So the sorts of things that one might think of when one's looking for opportunities, well, first of all, actually, you have to think about what the telco's contracted to do. Are they providing managed services? Because if they are, then you've got a much more opportunity to do things with the data. So then, but also, you know, does the end-to-end movement of data in this particular use case go over international boundaries? If so, then that's an opportunity. Or perhaps does it go over between different parties? So does it end at different customer sites? Or does it go to a second party partner, or does it even go to a third party site of some sort? And these, once you start to think about them, may have opportunities because the telco can see across these boundaries. Some activities have already been seen from the larger telcos. For example, Orange discussed the deployment of data meshes in their customer environment and suggest that we could see more telcos looking at capabilities in this area. However, it's likely to be the larger telcos who are really into the idea of doing stuff with data and have the technical capabilities. When thinking about data value chains, I wanted to go slightly onto a side point and show you what is, I apologise, a difficult and very detailed diagram. What I wanted to talk to here is that when one is thinking about what products could be provided to support any of these 9 use case categories, it's necessary to think across everything to do with data and services and analytics and AI and all sorts. So how I think about this is, first of all, I think about a value chain. That is the set of arrows at the top. First of all, I think through, so what sort of data generation could be provided by a telco. It could be their own data, it could be a second party data, they could be doing something with their customers' data, it could be third party data, they could be bringing that in, or they could be specifically, I've called it gathered data, gathering data that they wouldn't normally capture in their own systems, but they might be able to, for example, sensor data that's on a cell site. So there are kind of these other little opportunities. We go through other question marks. Is there any local processing? By local here, probably I mean edge of some sort. What about the transport? Probably is for a telco, transport opportunities. And then what about, is there anything that could be done from in a central processing location? What could be done there? What about data management, privacy, security, those sorts of services? And then far end processing tends not to be something that a telco will get involved in, but it is part of thinking through a data product from end to end. And then lastly, exposure and monetization. To what extent is there a platform that the telco could provide? And that may be just an API, it may be a visualization platform of some sort, maybe something more complicated and specific like an advertising platform, or it could be part of, oh, I don't know, an asset management platform. There could also be, as you go down that far right hand column, the ability to put and offer a data science platform or some sort of edge analytics platform. And there could also, of course, be data expertise put on the end of it. What is the need and the ROI around offering consultancy or training and education? I haven't talked through a lot of the middle of this, but if you are interested, hopefully you'll either be able to get a copy of the slide or you could take a screenshot, and it tries to help somebody to think through what happens in sort of specific scenarios, what other products happen. So I'm going to just talk very quickly about row that's labelled E, Insight for Moving Objects. So what you get here is not only some more general data products, but some more specific projects data products that relate to that category about moving things moving objects. You've got performance management and fault management. You've got very specific things like situational awareness, collision avoidance, mapping capabilities, traffic management capabilities. So there are, if you like, specific use cases and products that could be created within one of those 9 categories as well. So one needs to think quite laterally. And my hope is that my clients will be able to pick this up and kind of work their way through what they might provide, as it is quite a mind-boggling kind of a view. So moving backwards, just to talk through again the last of the categories before I finish up and just show you a couple of last slides. So A3 products, this is the last of my categories, and this includes all analytics, AI and automation. Has not been provided in one of the other 8 categories. Examples are usually standalone analytics or intelligence packages providing specialist capabilities. For example, a solution which provides analytics for risk management. This category has a diverse range of A3 products inside of it. Some telcos are already quite mature in their product offerings here. For example, the offering of speech recognition within a chatbot for an enterprise contact center to enrich contact center product offerings that they have. Others are less mature, so sentiment and emotion detection, probably not somewhere that a telco would wish to do, but on my list of things they could do. So I'm quite cautious when it comes to thinking about the opportunity here. They tend to be very specific, and the problem with specific solutions, of course, is how do you productize them? But there are plenty of applications where specific kinds of intelligence might be something particularly if the telco is doing it for themselves already. They might like to take that and monetize it with their customers. And it also, of course, it's worth saying that it probably needs some specialist partners and things to work on it. In fact, you see a variety of examples already out there with specialist parties. I guess that really concludes. I'm hoping I've been clear, because there's a lot. This is a big kind of amorphous number of things that could be done, and what I'm really trying to say is that when thinking through this strategy at a top level, one needs to categorize things, because it enables you to think more clearly about the market in general and what products you might create. So I'm going to use my last 5 minutes just to talk through a final diagram. So I took all 300 vertical use cases out of my spreadsheet, and first of all, I added up I did some adding up. I tagged each of my vertical use case with one of the 9 categories. So you will see, if you look at the diagram, hopefully you'll see 1 to 9 on there. I tagged each of my use cases with either one or more of these categories. And then I added them up to get the number of requirements. So as you can see, number 5, people analytics, which is obviously the place where telcos have been playing for the longest, has probably the most opportunities in different verticals use cases. Then on the y-axis, this shows the percentage of these use cases which are perceived to have a reasonable feasibility for the successful creation of telco data products. What you'll see is this feasibility is a set of scoring, and for each of my 300 use cases, I say, so what use case would it benefit from telco data? Because obviously for me and for my clients, if there's telcos could use their data, then that's increases the feasibility and interest of that use case. Is a specific telco product needed? So will telcos need to go away and develop a new platform to do something? And if so, how hard is that going to be? What about the privacy implications, both for the telco and for the potential customer? Because specific sets of regulations make use cases just a lot longer. They take a lot longer to create. And do telcos already have products in the market? If the telcos do, then feasibility wise, that obviously makes it a lot more feasible. And so what you'll see, the outcome of the exercise concluded that the areas with the most opportunity, so top right, remain the more traditional telco data services around provision of customer insight, and the higher potential for deployment of sensors and other IoT devices, things like video cameras, also provide just a really high number of potential opportunities, of which a good number could, I think, have telco data opportunities, especially where the telco is offering a full platform or somehow quite comprehensively involved and not just transporting the data. The moving objects opportunity on the left is less individual use cases because it's really only covers verticals such as transportation. So when I add up the number of requirements, there's just less requirements. But it's also thought to have very specific needs for data services. So I've given it a reasonably high feasibility score. And then the group of opportunities in that top left hand, they tend to be more limited in the number of use cases from which that could be created, and also kind of pretty nascent as well. So it makes the number of immediately feasible use cases more limited. And then lastly, we've got two in the bottom left-hand quadrant. So A3 products, so that's individual analytics, AI and automation products algorithms that a telco could create. There's a few specific requirements, and I would tend to see telcos occasionally creating these specific algorithms, but I just there's a lot less of them and a lot less feasible. And then of course my human focused category, I can't quite decide what to do with things in there, so it didn't get very high scoring this time. And that is basically what I'd like to tell you today. I hope it's been of some use. I guess really I was trying to say, look, you need to think through from a strategic perspective in groups of capabilities so you don't miss opportunities in different verticals. And then you need to do a bit of a big and complex crosstab about the sorts of products that you could provide using that rather complicated diagram. So thank you very much for listening today, and I hope that this has been of some interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, for that eye-opening and insightful session.